For this project I'm using a heart-shaped MDF which you can pick up from most craft stores. If not, if you get some mount board and cut yourself a nice heart shape, you can use that. Now I'm going to cover one side of my heart with the beautiful pattern papers that you get in your subscription box, but the other side I'm going to paint, and I'm going to use my sparkle pens and some white gesso, or you could use some white acrylic paint. This is the white gesso that's available on the Crafter's Companion website. So what I'm going to do is to put a little bit of the white gesso on my mat. That's probably more than enough. Make sure that lid's down. And then I'm using the sparkle pens. I'm using amethyst here because I'm trying to match in with my papers. So by getting your sparkle pen and doing a nice blob, you can then determine how dark or light you want this to be. And I'm just going to mix this together on my glass mat. And as you can see, the white gesso will dilute the colour down. And then if you want it diluted down even more, you just add some more gesso. So I'm thinking I might go a little bit lighter. I thought I added too much gesso, but I obviously didn't. So, and the thing with this is you could do several projects at once, so I won't be wasting this. I'll be using this to colour some other projects because there's some more papers in the pack. That's a bit better, that's a paler colour. So I'm just going to paint this all over my heart and then set that one side to dry. That's nicely dried now, so I'm going to stick my paper onto the reverse side. So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to use some all-purpose for this. So the best thing to do is to actually cover the whole of the MDF shape with your all-purpose. Now don't worry if it goes to the edge and seeps out, because as you know with all-purpose, as long as you wipe it away while it's dry and wet, it won't mark your project. So once you're happy we've got enough glue on there, I can position my paper, pop that down, and a top tip is let it dry before you cut it out. So I'm going to actually lay it down that way, so it's just giving that glue time to flatten out. Just check you've got no, that's it, just absolutely perfect. You've got, I can't feel any big lumps of glue, which you will not do with the all-purpose. And then we let that dry, and then we'll cut that out. While this is dry, I'm going to put this to one side and we can start making some of our flowers. I've actually taken these flowers from the ones that are already pre-cut in your subscription box, and I'm going to make a small flower here in the purple. Now to give it a bit more dimension, because they do look quite flat, I'm using some of the Spectrum White ink pads, and I've got crushed velvet here. So just with a little bit of ink, all I'm going to do is just put some darker ink just on the ends of the petals. So when we're putting the flower together, it just won't make it look so flat. So it just gives it a little bit more shape and dimension. So the ink pads are perfect for that. So I've done that, and the other thing I'm going to do, just wipe that up off my mat. The other thing I'm going to do is I've got ball tool here to give some shape to the flowers. So I've just got a piece of foam, and just with the ball tool just giving my petals a bit of a shape. Now you can use your ball tool for shaping your flowers, you could use your bone folder for shaping your flowers, you can pinch them together with some of your tweezers. So there's several different ways you could actually do that. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Pop that to one side, and then we can join these together. I've cut two, or I've taken out two of the smaller size, and I'm going to layer one on top of the other. I've already put my double-sided tape on, and the tape that I've used is the Crafter's Companion red tape, and it's the 3mm diameter, and it comes in this little packaging, and top tip is keep it in your little packaging because it is very super sticky, and the thing is if you put it against your other things it will stick to them as well, so best to keep it in its packaging when you're not using it. And then I'm just going to stick one layer to the other layer and offset these so they're stuck down nicely. Okay, so they're stuck down nicely. I've taken one of the stamens as well from the die cut set here, and I've taken a yellow stamen to give a bit of contrast colour. And another top tip is when you're taking these stamens out, you just pull them out, but this is waste, but it's not waste. If you snip each end you've got yourself another thin stamen there, so don't just think of it as being waste. Snip each end and you get even more of those stamens that can go in the middle of your flowers. So let's start curling this up. I've stuck the double-sided tape on, but I haven't gone right to the very end on purpose because I need to attach my quilling tool that comes actually in your box. So everything has been thought about with these die sets that we've got here, which is absolutely great. So your quilling tool has a little slit in it. It's probably hard for me to show you on here, and then just pop your paper between the slit and get it down as far as you can, and then tightly start curling. So I'm just holding it between two of my fingers and tightly curling, and just keep going and going and going until you get to the end. So that is going to give me a centre to my flower. And the nice thing about the flowers is you've got large petals, you've got small petals, so you can make an array of different flowers. These are double layered up, all shaped, so I now need to just take one piece of the double-sided tape off here. I like to take my tape off straight away rather than trying to curl it with the tape on. And then what you do is where you've finished off is then where you join the next piece on, and then again with your fingers just tightly. So I'm turning my tool with this hand and I'm pincering the petals together on this hand, so I'm getting it nice and tight. That is the trick. Good adhesive, like we've got the red liner tape, so really good for this. That's going to last, and keeping things nice and tight so it all sticks together. So just bringing that round, and because we've offset the flowers they're going to be absolutely fine. So right round to the end, and then just pincer that all together, so that's your flower there. And what you can do again at this stage is come in again with your ink pad and just add a little bit of ink just to the ends again. It just makes it look flat, it just brings it to life a little bit, plus the fact it's helping you splay open those petals, and you can see how nicely that flower is now looking. So let me just put my lid on there, and then with your thumb and forefinger, if you just gently slide your project off, so just gently take your project off there, carefully trying, I've gone really super tight here, that's it off. So if I show you the bottom there, you can see all that tight curled paper, and then when you open it up you've got your lovely flower. Now the nice thing about the quilling flowers is you can do several sizes. The one I've done here is using two of the smaller ones and one larger outside. This one again is with the two smaller ones, but in the lighter colour. But can you see the difference? They just all come out so different. And then this one is using 2 smaller pieces on the inside and 2 larger layers on the outside. And then I've even made a bud, so we've got a nice bud to our flower, and the bud is made just with one of the outside larger edges curled round, but this time I've curled it inwards so it looks like a bud, and then I've added 2 of those leaves to the outside. So you can just make a nice selection of flowers. Okay, and then our heart should be dry now, so let's cut out our hearts. Let me pop this lot to one side, and we'll bring our heart back in. So that's nicely dry now. Now I'm going to use a craft knife. You could really quite easily go in with a pair of scissors. Let's have a look and see if we can. So you can quite easily, on the bits you can get to, go in with a pair of scissors. So you can see you can get a nice trim with a pair of scissors as well. It's just when you get to that top piece here, you might find it a bit harder. Okay, so let me just continue with the bigger bits with a pair of scissors, because a lot of you may find that easier. Okay, and then with a craft knife, this is one that you hold as a pen, just cutting around. Now if you're using a craft knife, it is easier if you actually work on a glass mat rather than a self-healing mat, because then it doesn't drag. So I do find a craft knife works better on a glass mat. So is that all of that out now? I think that's it. That's it, all taken away. So let me just put the cap on here. That's our decorative heart done. So we've got the nice painting on one side and our paper on this side. And then to find the hole, you could even use your quilling tool. Just make a mark, there we go, through on the other side, then there's a space there to pop my ribbon. And then to finish this edge off, what I like to do is to go in with a sanding block, okay, and just go downwards, so you're rounding it round the edge of the project. This also is going to give a nice edge to your heart shape, so it doesn't look too flat. Just do that bit more. Can you see the difference between having just the cut edge and having that nice sanded edge? So let me continue. That's all nicely sanded now, and then I can start sort of having a play with where my flowers are going to go. Okay, so you can start having a look at that, and then I'm going to bring in some of the cutter parts as well that we've got in our subscription box and put some of these down. Now I think a project like this really lends itself to, say, someone that's in hospital, a little bit of a get well. It's a bit different than a plain card, so I think thinking of you works quite nicely, because I think that's quite nice on there. And also I think we're going to have some of these butterflies, because I think these will look really nice on here. I could even have a big one up here, and we could have a smaller one actually on the flowers themselves. So I'm going to gather my leaves. So I'm going to die cut some leaves out, but also you've got leaves in your collection here. You've got different shaped leaves here, and because I think these look more rose type, I'm going to go for some of these bigger leaves. So I'm going to ink those up, and just to give those a bit of a colour like I have on here, I've used the pine tree ink. So I'm going to get those all ready so I can start assembling my project. I've started attaching the elements to our project. I've got my ribbon threaded through now, so I've just popped that through the hole in the back there and then tied a nice little triple bow just using some ribbon from my crafty stash. And this is a raw silk ribbon, so it just lays nicely. I was going to put some jute behind the flowers, but I think the ribbon lays nicely. Now with the butterflies, you're probably thinking, what have I done? What I've done is I've actually taken, let me take one of these out here for you, because these are all foiled, which is absolutely fabulous. So they're all die cut, you just pop them out and they're all foiled. And all I've done is take my same colour ink pad, I kept everything the same, take a little bit of ink and just dab over the top, and you can see how it just colours round the edge. Okay, so it doesn't look too stark. So if I bring one in here that's not been done, let's just pop one of these out. You can see how quickly they pop out. Pick this one up, and if you look at the two, can you see how that blends in just a little bit more with the project rather than just standing out too proud? I didn't want it too in your face. I preferred the blended in look. So your ink pads are fine with that, and it doesn't affect any of the foiling at all. All I did afterwards was I had a bit of kitchen paper here. I can pick it up, and all I did after I inked it was I just buffed it up over the top with no problem whatsoever. Okay, so that's another little thing you could try. I'm using a hot glue gun to attach my elements. I could use my silicone glue, which is great, and that's what I would normally do, because that gives you a little bit of movement and it gives you that nice 3D look, but it takes a little bit longer to dry. So I have been using my hot glue gun for this. So if you don't have a hot glue gun, I would recommend using the silicone. And I'm just building my flowers up on one side because I've got the balance the other side with the sentiment and that. I've inked my leaves as I said to you I was going to do, and then just by feeding some of these leaves in here, this will just fill in those gaps, and then you can round some of your leaves again as well with your ball tool. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the end, and then can you see these elements at the back here, so you can just fill in with your leaves. So I'm just going to continue doing that for a minute just to finish it off till I'm happy with how it's doing. I'm happy with how that's looking, and the finishing touch is popping a little butterfly, I think, on the flowers here. Just trying to think which one we'll pop it on, because I think it will look quite nice on there actually, just to add that little finishing touch. I think we'll go that way. So I'm popping a bit of hot glue on the back there, and then just pop that behind there. So there we go. That's our little wall hanging plaque finished. So that's using the elements from subscription box 5. I think this makes a lovely little keepsake, or because I put thinking of you, you know, you're visiting someone in hospital. A lot of hospitals nowadays won't take flowers, but wouldn't that be nice to take into hospital to give someone to hang over their bed in hospital. But a lovely little project, could be used for all sorts of things. You know, you've got so many sentiments on here alone. You know, you've got your live, love, laugh. You know, you've got your happiness today and always. There's just so many different occasions you could make one of these heart plaques to give to somebody. I hope you've enjoyed it and you will make yours too.